You think being harmless will keep you safe? You think playing small, staying quiet, and never stepping on anyone's toes will protect you? Let me tell you something, wolves don't fear sheep. And in this world, you are either the person who sets the tone or the one who is forced to follow it. Too many people live like prey and then wonder why predators keep showing up at their door. I want you to imagine walking into a room where everyone stops and takes notice, not because you're loud, not because you're flashy, but because you carry yourself with a presence that says, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness." That's not arrogance. That's not ego. That's power, quiet, controlled, and dangerous if necessary. But here's the problem. Somewhere along the way, society convinced you that being good means being harmless, that standing your ground means you're aggressive, that having an edge makes you a threat. And so you've been taught to dull your edges, to mute your voice, to shrink yourself just enough so nobody feels uncomfortable around you. And in doing so, you've made yourself an easy target. What I'm about to tell you might make you uncomfortable because it's not the warm, sugar-coated advice you've been fed your whole life. The truth is, if you want to survive and thrive in this world, you cannot be harmless. You must have the capacity to be dangerous. You must be capable of standing up, pushing back, and making sure anyone who thinks of taking advantage of you knows it will cost them more than they're willing to pay. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about becoming the kind of person people don't mess with. Not because you go around picking fights, but because they can sense you're someone who can fight back if needed. Someone who won't crumble under pressure. Someone who knows how to use their strength, their mind, their willpower with precision and control. So the question is, are you ready to stop being harmless? Are you ready to stop living like prey? Are you ready to become the kind of person who can walk through the chaos of this world and still come out standing tall, unshaken, and respected? Because if you are, then it's time to unleash the part of you they told you to bury. The part that's been waiting, watching, and learning. The part that when called upon can be a monster. People will tell you that being nice is the key to living a good life. They'll say, if you're kind to everyone, good things will happen to you. And maybe that sounds comforting. Maybe it even feels safe. But let me be brutally honest with you. Being harmless is not the same as being good. Being harmless is not virtue. Being harmless is weakness. And weakness does not protect you. It exposes you. When you're harmless, it means you have no ability to push back, no ability to fight for yourself, no ability to stand up for what you believe in. You're not harmless because you've chosen peace. You're harmless because you don't have any other option. That's not a noble trait. That's just leaving yourself wide open for people to walk over you. And here's the ugly truth. There are people out there who will, this world is not filled with sunshine and rainbows. It's filled with competition, challenges, people with agendas, and some who simply see others as stepping stones to get what they want. If you think being agreeable and keeping the peace will protect you, you've already lost the fight before it even began. Wolves don't care how polite the sheep are, they only care that they're easy to catch. And here's the trap. We've been conditioned to think that harmless equals moral, that if you never raise your voice, if you never push back, if you never make anyone uncomfortable, you're somehow a better person. But morality isn't about never causing discomfort. True morality is having the strength to defend what's right, even when it's hard. And you can't defend anything if you don't have the capacity to stand your ground. Imagine this, two people walk into a room, one is harmless, soft-spoken, nervous, eager to please. The other is strong, calm, confident, and capable of holding their own in any situation. Which one do you think others will respect more? Which one do you think will be taken seriously when they speak? Which one will be ignored, dismissed, or taken advantage of? Respect doesn't come from harmlessness. It comes from capability. Now let me make this clear. I'm not saying you should go around acting aggressive, throwing your weight around, or looking for fights. That's not strength. That's insecurity. What I'm saying is that you need to develop the capacity for danger. You need to be someone who could cause damage if you chose to, but who has the discipline not to. Because here's the thing. If you don't have the ability to be dangerous, your so-called goodness isn't really a choice. It's just the only option you've got. Think about it like this. If you can't defend yourself, walking away from a fight isn't virtue. It's survival. But if you have the skill, the strength, and the mindset to hold your own, and you still choose to walk away, that's a real virtue. That's control. That's moral strength. And people can feel that difference when they're around you. Being harmless also breeds resentment. You tell yourself you're doing the right thing by avoiding confrontation, by always being the one to bend, by staying quiet even when you're mistreated. But deep down, you start to feel the sting of being overlooked, underestimated, and disrespected. And that quiet resentment eats at you until one day you either explode in a way that's out of proportion or you collapse into self-pity. Neither of those reactions serves you. The solution is to build yourself into someone who doesn't need to react emotionally because you already know your own capability. When you know you can hold your own, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to puff your chest out or yell to be heard. Your presence alone does the talking. You don't need to threaten anyone. People just know you're not to be messed with. And here's another thing nobody tells you: being harmless doesn't make people love you more. It often makes them respect you less. Because deep down, we all respect competence, not weakness. We're drawn to people who can lead, protect, and hold their own. When you're harmless, you're not a leader, you're a follower. And the dangerous thing about always being a follower is that you go wherever you're led, even if it's straight into the fire. So how do you stop being harmless? You build your mind, your body, and your character. You train yourself to think clearly under pressure. You work on your physical strength, not because you want to fight, but because strength changes the way you carry yourself. You learn to speak up even when your voice shakes. You develop skills that make you useful and respected. And most importantly, you learn to control your emotions so that your strength is always guided by reason, not impulse. That's the difference between someone who's dangerous and someone who's reckless. A reckless person lashes out without thinking. A dangerous person evaluates the situation, knows exactly what they're capable of, and acts only when it's necessary. That's real power. That's the kind of presence that changes how people treat you without you ever having to raise a hand. Harmlessness might seem safe in the short term, but in the long run, it's the quickest way to lose control of your own life. Because if you don't have the capacity to protect yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, someone else will always be in control. You'll always be at the mercy of others' decisions, moods, and intentions. Strength, on the other hand, puts the steering wheel back in your hands. It doesn't guarantee life will be easy, but it guarantees you won't be powerless when it gets hard. And that's what this is really about. Not being a bully, not being cruel, but refusing to be a victim. Because in this world, the people who survive and thrive aren't the ones who avoid all danger. They're the ones who can face it head on and walk away on their own terms. So stop confusing harmlessness with virtue. Stop thinking your ability to avoid conflict is a badge of honor. Start building yourself into someone capable of standing your ground, capable of defending your principles, capable of walking into any room and knowing you can handle whatever comes your way. That's when you'll find real peace, not the fragile peace that comes from avoiding trouble, but the unshakable peace that comes from knowing you can handle it. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need more harmless people. It needs strong, capable, dangerous people who choose to use their strength for good. And that is when you stop being prey and start becoming the kind of person no one dares underestimate. Respect is not given. It's taken, earned, and commanded. And you do not earn it by asking nicely. You don't get it by waiting for others to recognize your value. You get it by becoming the kind of person who radiates capability. Someone others instinctively know not to take lightly. Someone who doesn't need to threaten or shout, because their very presence sends a message. This is not a person you want to cross. We live in a world where weakness is exploited. If people think they can push you, they will. If they think they can get away with disrespect, they'll test you. And once they know they can walk all over you without consequence, it will become their habit. That's why you can't just hope people will respect you. You have to make sure they know there's a line they should never cross. And that line is drawn by your capability. Capability isn't just about physical strength, though that plays a role. It's about the combination of mental toughness, emotional discipline, and a clear understanding of who you are and what you stand for. It's about being prepared to defend yourself verbally, emotionally, and yes, if necessary, physically. It's about being so centered in your own power that others can feel it before you say a word. Think about the people in your life who naturally command respect. What is it about them? They're not always the loudest, they're not always the biggest, but there's something in the way they carry themselves, their posture, their eye contact, their tone, that makes you think twice before challenging them. That's not an accident. That's the result of deliberate self-mastery. If you want to build yourself into someone others fear to cross, you have to start by raising your standards for yourself. Every single day, you need to be sharpening your mind, strengthening your body, and training your spirit. You need to treat self-improvement like survival, because in many ways it is. When you skip the workout, when you ignore the book, when you let your emotions dictate your decisions, you are handing away pieces of your power. Over time, those pieces add up until there's nothing left to stand on. People respect what they can't easily manipulate. If they see you as weak, they'll use guilt, shame, or pressure to control you. If they see you as strong, they'll think twice. This isn't about being intimidating for no reason. It's about becoming immune to manipulation. It's about having such a grounded sense of self that you can't be bullied into actions or beliefs that don't align with your values. And here's the thing, people can sense strength. It's in your body language. It's in the way you speak, clear, direct, and without unnecessary justification. It's in the way you look people in the eye, not with aggression, but with certainty. Strength is a frequency you carry, and once you start building it, you'll notice that others treat you differently. The same people who once dismissed you will suddenly tread carefully. The same people who interrupted you mid-sentence will now listen when you speak. But this doesn't happen overnight. Building yourself into someone others fear to cross is a long-term commitment. It means putting in the work when no one's watching. It means choosing the harder path when the easy one is right there. It means refusing to compromise your principles just to avoid temporary discomfort. Every time you stand up for yourself, every time you push through a challenge, every time you refuse to settle for less than your worth, you're laying another brick in the foundation of your strength. It also means developing a certain level of unpredictability, not in a chaotic or unstable way, but in a way that makes others realize they can't predict your limits. People should know that if they cross you, there will be consequences, not necessarily loud or public, but firm and undeniable. That might mean cutting someone off entirely. It might mean confronting them directly. It might mean outmaneuvering them quietly. But whatever it is, they'll know you're not someone they can step on without cost. This is why self-defense mentally and physically is critical. You don't have to become a fighter, but you should know that if push comes to shove, you can protect yourself. And even more important, you should look like someone who can protect themselves. That alone changes how people approach you. Predators, whether in business, relationships, or the streets, look for easy targets. If you carry yourself like someone who is capable, you immediately stop being an easy target. And let's be real, this isn't just about avoiding danger. This is about commanding your space in every area of life. In the workplace, capability earns promotions. In relationships, it earns respect. In friendships, it earns loyalty. People naturally gravitate toward those who can lead, protect, and inspire confidence. That's why when you build yourself into someone others fear to cross, you don't just protect yourself, you elevate your entire life. But with this power comes responsibility. Strength without control becomes tyranny. You don't want to be feared because you're cruel or impulsive. You want to be respected because you're capable. And that's where discipline comes in. Discipline is what keeps your power in check. It's what allows you to respond with precision instead of reacting with chaos. When you have the ability to cause damage, but the wisdom to choose restraint, people know your strength is real, not just an act. So what does this look like in practice? It looks like taking care of your health, because a weak body sends a message before you even speak. It looks like reading and learning constantly, because a sharp mind can cut deeper than any weapon. It looks like controlling your emotions, because nothing makes you more vulnerable than being easy to provoke. It looks like standing firm in your boundaries, even if it costs you relationships or opportunities. When you live like this, you stop asking for respect, and you start demanding it without saying a word. You walk into rooms differently. You carry yourself differently. And people feel it. They won't always like it, but they'll respect it. And that's more valuable than their approval. Approval is conditional, respect is earned. Remember this, if people don't fear crossing you, they won't think twice about doing it. But if you've built yourself into someone who can't be moved easily, someone who holds the line no matter the pressure, you'll find that most people won't even try. Because deep down, they'll know they're not just crossing a person, they're crossing a force. And forces aren't easy to move. Forces push back, forces stand. And that's exactly what you were built to do. If you want, I can make the next section on discipline as the leash on your inner beast flow directly from this one. So the speech keeps its momentum without breaking tone. Would you like me to continue in that way? Power without control is destruction. You can have all the strength, all the skill, all the potential in the world. But if you can't control it, you're just a loaded weapon with no safety. And that's not impressive, that's dangerous. In the worst way. True power, the kind that earns respect and makes you unshakable, comes when you have the ability to unleash force, but the discipline to keep it on a leash. Your inner beast is that raw part of you that's capable of incredible strength and determination. It's the side of you that fights, that refuses to quit, that pushes past limits. But here's the problem. If that part of you is allowed to run wild, it can destroy as much as it protects. Without discipline, your strength becomes recklessness. Your confidence becomes arrogance. Your drive becomes obsession. Think of discipline like the leash you put on that beast. It doesn't weaken it, it doesn't cage it, it directs it. Discipline tells you when to strike and when to hold back. It teaches you the value of patience, timing, and precision. Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make is not swinging at all. Sometimes restraint sends a louder message than aggression ever could. The people who lose in life often aren't the weakest, they're the ones who had strength but wasted it. They reacted instead of responded. They let emotions dictate their actions instead of strategy. They burned bridges they didn't need to burn. They picked battles they didn't need to fight, and in doing so, they drained themselves. That's what happens when you let the beast off the leash without purpose. Discipline is training yourself to control your emotions in high-stakes moments. It's knowing that anger is not always your enemy, but it's never your leader. It's the patience to play the long game when every part of you wants an immediate victory. It's doing what needs to be done even when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, or unnoticed. And here's the truth. Most people don't want to hear, discipline isn't built in the heat of the moment. It's built in the small, boring, repetitive decisions you make every single day. Waking up early when you'd rather sleep in, finishing the workout when your body wants to quit, saying no to things that would give you instant gratification, but steal from your long-term goals. Every time you make those choices, you're tightening that leash, keeping your beast under control, and teaching it to work for you instead of against you. This is why the most dangerous people in the world are often the calmest in the room. It's not because they're harmless, it's because they've mastered themselves. They don't need to prove their strength every second, because they know it's there. They don't rush to prove a point because they understand timing. They're not easily provoked because they refuse to let others dictate their actions. That's discipline at work. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you could unleash hell, but choosing not to. People can feel it. It changes the way they approach you. They understand, even if they can't explain it, that you're capable of far more than you're showing. That's the kind of control that commands both fear and respect. But don't confuse discipline with passivity. This isn't about letting people walk over you or avoiding conflict at all costs. Discipline doesn't mean you don't act. It means you act with intention. It means when you step forward, you do so with purpose, with a plan, and with the certainty that it's the right moment. It means your actions are sharp, not sloppy. Your words are precise, not wasted. You've probably seen people who act without discipline. They get angry and blow up at the wrong time. They push too hard when patience would have served them better. They take unnecessary risks because they can't control their impulses. And even if they win a few battles, they lose the war, because recklessness always has a price. Discipline is what allows you to walk away from petty fights, because you know your energy is better spent elsewhere. It's what allows you to endure discomfort without complaining, because you're focused on the bigger picture. It's what keeps you from overextending yourself, burning out, or making decisions you'll regret just to satisfy a momentary feeling. And here's the part most people don't realize: discipline makes you more dangerous, not less. Because when you finally decide to act, it's not out of impulse. It's calculated, intentional, and effective. There's no wasted motion, no unnecessary risk. When you move with precision, and that's far more intimidating than wild aggression. If you want to keep your beast under control, you have to train it daily. That means building habits that strengthen your body, sharpen your mind, and ground your emotions. It means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to rise higher instead of encouraging you to act out of impulse. It means holding yourself accountable even when no one's watching, because you know the leash is only as strong as your self-control. When discipline becomes second nature, you stop fearing your own power and you start owning it. You're no longer a danger to yourself or your goals. You're a force that can be directed toward exactly what you want to achieve. And when you finally decide to let that beast off the leash, it will be for the right reason, at the right time, and in a way that no one will see coming until it's too late. That's when you become truly unstoppable. Not because you're always on the attack, but because you know exactly when and how to unleash everything you've built. And that, more than anything, is what makes people think twice before crossing you. If you want, I can now continue into face the fire. Don't flinch and keep the speech intensity flowing without losing its Evy Poumpouras tone. That's where we'll take all this control and put it to the test in real-world challenges. Would you like me to keep going? Most people spend their entire lives running from discomfort. They avoid confrontation, they sidestep challenges, they back away from anything that feels too intense. They convince themselves they're being smart or keeping the peace. But deep down, they're just afraid. Afraid of getting hurt, afraid of failing, afraid of finding out that they're not as strong as they thought. But here's the truth. Every single thing you want in life is on the other side of fire. And if you can't face it, you'll never have it. The fire is the test. It's the moment that forces you to decide who you really are. It's easy to talk about being strong when things are calm. It's easy to look confident when nothing is pushing against you. But real strength is revealed in the moments that burn, when the heat is so intense that every instinct tells you to retreat. That's when you find out whether all your talk, all your preparation, all your self-belief actually means something. Life will hand you moments where you have two options: step forward into the flames or step back into safety. And safety feels tempting. It's quiet, it's familiar, it's comfortable, but it's also a cage. The moment you start avoiding the fire, you start shrinking, you start living smaller, you start convincing yourself that your comfort is worth more than your growth. And once that mindset takes hold, you stop living, you start existing. Facing the fire doesn't mean you won't feel fear. It doesn't mean you won't feel doubt. It means you refuse to let those feelings make the decision for you. It means you walk straight into the discomfort, knowing it will hurt, knowing it will test you, and choosing to do it anyway. Because every time you stand in the fire and refuse to flinch, you become someone new, someone stronger, sharper, and more unshakable. Think of the people you admire most. They're not the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who went through hell and kept walking. They didn't avoid the flames. They stood in them until the heat shaped them into something indestructible. And here's the thing, that kind of resilience isn't built in theory. You can't think your way into being unbreakable. You have to be tested. You have to feel the burn. Some fires are small, everyday challenges that annoy you, frustrate you, or inconvenience you. These are the perfect places to train yourself. Every time you choose the harder path when the easy one is available, you're conditioning yourself for the bigger tests ahead. You're learning how to stay calm when things get uncomfortable. You're teaching your mind and body that discomfort is not a threat, it's a training ground. Then there are the big fires, the ones that change the trajectory of your life, the betrayal that rips the floor out from under you, the loss that leaves you hollow, the failure that makes you question whether you should even keep going. These moments will try to break you, and if you go into them without having trained yourself to handle heat, they might succeed. But if you've faced the smaller fires, if you've practiced not flinching, you'll find that even in the most intense flames, you can keep your footing. Not flinching doesn't mean you won't feel the burn. It means you won't let the burn dictate your choices. It means that while others are panicking, you're thinking. While others are backing away, you're stepping forward. You know that pain is temporary, but growth lasts forever. You know that the only way out is through. Most people wait until the fire is gone before they try to rebuild. That's why they never truly grow. They keep starting over instead of building in the middle of the heat. The real transformation happens when you're in the thick of it, when the air is heavy, when the pressure is crushing you, and you choose to keep moving forward anyway, that's when you're forged into something new. Here's the other thing about facing the fire: when you do it enough times, it changes the way people see you. They notice that you don't panic under pressure. They notice that you don't fold when things get tough. And that presence alone is intimidating. It's not that you're fearless, it's that you've been burned before and survived. You carry yourself like someone who can take the heat, and people feel that. This is where the work you've done on yourself really shows. If you've built your body, your mind, and your discipline, the fire doesn't destroy you, it fuels you. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every failure becomes a stepping stone. Every painful moment becomes proof that you can handle more than you thought possible. And over time, you stop dreading the fire. You start welcoming it because you know it's in those moments, and only in those moments, that you truly grow. But let me be clear, facing the fire doesn't mean charging into chaos recklessly. It means preparing yourself so that when the flames come, you're ready. It means training your mind to stay focused, your body to stay strong, and your emotions to stay in check. It means having the patience to know when to move and when to hold your ground. The fire isn't something to fear, it's something to respect. The greatest victories are won by those who can keep moving when the heat is unbearable. Because the fire is where most people quit. It's where they decide the dream isn't worth it. It's where they settle for less because more costs too much. And that's where you have the advantage. If you don't flinch, you automatically outlast most of the competition. One day, you'll look back at the fires you faced and realize they were the best thing that ever happened to you, not because they were pleasant, but because they revealed who you really are, because they took all the fear, doubt, and weakness inside you and burned it away, because they left you standing stronger, sharper, and more dangerous than before. So when the fire comes, and it will, don't step back, step forward, stand tall, look it in the eye, and refuse to flinch. Because once you've walked through the flames and come out the other side, nothing and no one will ever scare you the same way again. And that's when you'll know you've become the kind of person who can handle anything. If you want, I can now move directly into use your power to protect, not destroy. So we end the speech on a powerful moral anchor that ties all this dangerous capability back to purpose. Would you like me to roll into that? Power, in its purest form, is neither good nor evil. It is simply potential. What you choose to do with that potential determines the mark you leave on the world. The problem is that when people hear the word power, they immediately think of manipulation, domination, and destruction. They imagine the tyrants, the bullies, the narcissists who wield strength like a weapon to crush others. But that is not the kind of power you should aspire to. True power is not about breaking people down. It's about building others up while making sure no one dares to break you. When you develop yourself into someone who is strong physically, mentally, and emotionally, you are given a choice. You can use that strength to hurt people, to push your will onto the world without care for who gets trampled. Or you can use it to protect. Protection doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean being passive or waiting for trouble to find you. It means being the kind of person who can walk into chaos and restore order, who can stand between the people you care about and the forces trying to harm them. It means being a shield, but a shield made of steel, not paper. There's a reason people respect those who can fight, but choose not to. It's because that restraint takes far more strength than losing control ever will. Anyone can lash out in anger. Anyone can use force to intimidate, but it takes a different kind of person, a disciplined, self-aware, powerful person to hold back when they could crush the opposition, and instead redirect that energy toward creating safety and stability. This is the essence of controlled power, knowing you can destroy, but choosing instead to defend. The world is full of people who prey on the weak. They look for the cracks, the hesitations, the signs of someone who won't fight back. And make no mistake, they don't just exist in dark alleys or shadowy corners. They're in workplaces, in social circles, sometimes even in families. They will test you. They will push your boundaries. And if you are harmless, you will be crushed under the weight of their will. But if you are powerful, if you have built yourself into someone who commands respect, then you can stop them before they even start. Using your power to protect doesn't just apply to defending others physically. It's about standing up for people when they can't stand up for themselves. It's about speaking the truth in rooms where everyone else stays silent. It's about refusing to turn a blind eye when you see someone being treated unjustly. It's about having the courage to take the hits, verbally, emotionally, or otherwise, so someone more vulnerable doesn't have to. But here's the part people don't like to talk about. Protection isn't comfortable. It will put you in situations where you are challenged, disliked, or even targeted. It will make you face people who want to test whether your strength is real or just for show. And it will force you to make tough calls, sometimes choosing between what's easy and what's right. But that's the price of real power. You can't use it to protect without accepting the responsibility that comes with it. This is why it's not enough to simply have power. You have to master it. You have to keep it under control. Without discipline, your strength becomes reckless. Your words become weapons that cut too deep, and your influence turns toxic. But with discipline, your power becomes a tool, a precision instrument you can wield with purpose. It becomes something people trust, not fear, something people respect, not resent. Think about the people in your life who you feel safe around. They aren't the ones who are incapable of hurting you. They're the ones who could, but choose not to. They have the ability, but they value restraint. They know that true strength isn't in showing everyone how powerful they are. It's in knowing they don't have to. This is the kind of person you should aim to become. The truth is, being harmless will never make the world better. Being destructive will never make you truly respected. But being powerful, disciplined, and protective, that changes things. That creates a ripple effect where the people around you feel safer, stronger, and more confident simply because you're there. Your presence becomes a reminder that chaos can be confronted, injustice can be challenged, and harm can be stopped before it spreads. So build your power, train your body, sharpen your mind, strengthen your will, but when the time comes to use it, let it be for the right reasons. Let it be to stand between danger and the people you love. Let it be to shield those who cannot shield themselves. Let it be a force for good. So strong that anyone thinking of causing harm reconsiders before they even try. Because when you have the capacity to be a monster but choose instead to be a protector, you're not just strong, you're unstoppable. And the world desperately needs more people like that. At the end of the day, the world doesn't need more people who are afraid of their own strength. It needs more people who understand their power, who have mastered it, and who choose to use it with purpose. Being harmless is not a virtue, it's a liability. True strength is the ability to act with precision, to stand your ground, and to rise when the moment demands it. You were not put here to be a spectator in your own life, watching others dictate the terms. You were put here to claim your roles, protect what matters, and walk with a presence that tells the world you will not be broken. You have a fire inside you, one that if you stop suppressing it, can light the way through the darkest moments. But that fire must be harnessed, disciplined, and directed towards something greater than yourself. That is what separates the reckless from the powerful. That is what turns raw instinct into unstoppable influence. So stop apologizing for your strength. Stop diluting your potential to make others comfortable. The world will respect you only when you demand respect. And you can only demand it when you have the power to back it up. Step into the version of yourself that is both protector and warrior. Someone who can be gentle when the moment calls for it, and unshakable when the battle comes. Remember this, a monster with discipline is not a threat to the good. It is the greatest shield against the evil. Become that shield. Become that force. Be the person others know they can count on, and the one no one dares to cross. Because when you own your power, you don't just change your life. You change every life you touch.